Man, you know what's crazy about Overwatch 2? Seeing 10-minute queue times for tanks. Looks like they did something right if everybody wants to play that. Wait, why is support at 2 minutes? That's not good. I'm sure it's gonna be fine. Not like everybody stopped playing support because Sombra is currently incredibly overpowered and deletes your backline so fast that you get reversed back into Overwatch 1. Surely that's not it, right? I mean, it can't be Doomfist because ever since they turned that guy into a tank, fighting him has become a lot less frustrating. And I don't think it's Tracer because, well, at least I haven't had any trouble fighting her. Though I would lie if I said that I haven't been run over by the new and improved Orisa yet. Thanks, Yuzu, you dick. Whatever the case may be, that's not gonna stop me from one-tricking Zenyatta. All those crybabies getting off of support only means faster queue times for me. Yeah, okay, maybe they had a point. Listen, obviously Overwatch 2 was gonna feel a bit different from the previous game. We can't expect to have old strategies carry us to victory in a new format. But I need to set the right expectation here. If you are a support player and you have followed the coverage of this game throughout the alpha and beta drops, you will hear a few things coming out of my mouth that sound very scary. I don't want to play support anymore levels of scary. But I promise that there is a light at the end of the tunnel for at least some of you who enjoy playing support. It's just that you really need to adjust the way you play. So, are supports bad now? Looking at the patch notes of the first beta wave, you will notice that supports haven't gotten a heck of a lot of changes. Definitely less than the tanks, and not as many as our DPS counterparts. I mean, heck, Zenyatta literally doesn't even show up in the patch notes. I do look very shiny though. But does that make support bad? Certainly it makes the launch of the beta a lot less exciting for support players who don't get a bunch of new toys to play with. What you do get instead is a fundamentally different game that requires a lot of practice to make supports work. The first, maybe 4 matches that I played in the beta, I absolutely hated. Like, I got rolled so unceremoniously that it wasn't even funny. And that sucked because I was lucky enough to get a streak of the new maps right out of the gate, so having a bad time checking out new content is not the best way to build a good first impression for a new game. And that was part of the problem. As you guys know, support heroes rely hugely on game sense and map knowledge to position themselves properly and safely, something made more difficult if you never played on a map before. It's also a skill set that could largely be compensated for in Overwatch 1 due to the nature of a double tank lineup. We've had a lot of leeway because DPS heroes couldn't just run at us since they would have to go through our front line first, but they'd be met with plenty of damage as well as crowd control. But no more, the removal of one tank as well as crowd control means that DPS heroes have a lot more freedom in how they want to position themselves. And since it is nearly impossible to kill a tank in Overwatch 2 so long that the support lineup is alive, you can be damn sure that they'll be gunning for ya. So where DPS heroes have gained a lot of freedom in this version of the game, support heroes instead find themselves a lot more restrained. Rotations are dangerous, mistakes are immediately punished, and flanks are enabled as well as encouraged through the new map design. I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that, in my humble opinion, support as a role has become a lot harder to play. It's a lot more punishing than playing tank because now they have so much HP they can survive making a mistake or two before backing out. And it's definitely more punishing than DPS because they can just outgun their opponents even if they position themselves a bit wonky. It's for that reason that support heroes with a lot of survivability currently sit at the top of many Overwatch 2 tier lists. If you have the means and ways to survive your own mistakes, you will be doing much better in this version of the game. So what happens to the Zenyatas and Anas of the world, heroes that don't have a lot of leeway to make mistakes and no mobility to reposition themselves? Those characters have become a lot harder to play. In general, the skill floor has been raised to get a minimal amount of value out of any support hero really, but the low mobility variety has really gotten the short end of the stick. Tanks now generate less ultimate charge when hit, and since 2 supports now focus on healing a singular tank of their own, you will be cannibalizing each other for that ultimate charge. The result? Nobody gets the ultimate fast at any point in time, which means that Transcendence, my only get out of jail free card, is virtually gone. This general philosophy to remove abilities and playstyles that give you value passively can be observed across the entirety of Overwatch 2. Ultimates come online much more rarely, meaning when somebody does use one, it feels a lot more deliberate and important rather than a prerequisite to commit to a teamfight. There are so few stunts in the game that for every character that does have them, you are consciously aware of it and try to play around them rather than expecting to get stunned all the time. And heal botting is straight up not a thing anymore. Done are the days of me playing Overwatch while mentally AFK. Every move I take and every play I commit to has to be deliberate or else I just get annihilated. And that's refreshing. I cannot begin to explain to you how liberating it feels to know that the eliminations I collect actually make a difference. How often minute you hear somebody say, "I got 4 of them, how do we not win this fight?" And you look back at the objective just to see 2 tanks stalling for time until the rest of the team comes back. When I go on the flank and I take out 2 players on the enemy team, that makes a difference, a big one in fact. Even with Mercy in the game, Overwatch 2 is so fast-paced that the time she takes to resurrect somebody might very well cause somebody else to get eliminated. For all intents and purposes, support in Overwatch 2 is kind of like playing scuffed DPS. You are very much expected to be winning your duels, and you are also expected to contribute to the fight in more ways than just healing. Remember, the role is not called healer, it's support. In many ways, your utility has become so much more important that any orb volley, anti-nade, or damage orb you toss out could turn the tide of a team fight in an instant. And that playstyle is not everyone's cup of tea. I understand that a large portion of the support player base really enjoys knowing that their healing is contributing to the team. But let's be real here, you weren't really playing the game of Overwatch if you were doing that. You were playing a fraction of what the game has to offer, and that just isn't good enough anymore. Teamfights aren't these long, drawn-out encounters anymore where pumping ungodly amounts of healing is the name of the game. Being ready, willing, and able to go for aggressive, high-impact plays is necessary to make a difference now. And more than ever, it's not about the tank support synergy anymore, rather than the DPS support synergy. Your DPS need your help to be able to do their job effectively, whether that means tossing a Harmony Orb on a blading Genji or chucking an anti-nade at a target your Sombra is trying to dive. Tanks are incredibly powerful. Chances are they don't need your attention outside of the start of an engagement or in between teamfights to top them off. That also means that having a main healer is no longer a necessity. There absolutely are playstyles that facilitate lower healing output support compositions, and that's just so awesome to see. So what's the verdict? The skill floor to play support is a lot higher. Heal botting is no longer an effective way to play the game, and you are expected to bring a bare minimum amount of awareness and mechanical skill that just was not necessary in Overwatch for the past like 4 years. That is going to be incredibly whiplash inducing for many supports who have gotten used to feeling mostly safe at any given point throughout a match. But the training wheels are gone, my friends, which means you either adapt to the new environment or go down trying. What awaits you at the end of that transition period, where you adjust your playstyle to match the new pace of the game, is an incredibly rewarding gameplay experience, where you feel like the things you do outside of topping of HP bars makes a massive difference. You finally feel like a support and not like a healer, and I'm here for it. That's not to say that I think the game is perfect as is. I think a couple tweaks here and there could help some support heroes that are currently struggling in this environment. Frido suggested lowering the cooldown of Ana's sleep dart, but in turn decreasing the sleeping duration, and I feel like that could go a long way. Zenyatta, while dealing a lot of damage, still has a lot more unreliable damage than a lot of the hit scan heroes that we have to fight right now. So I feel like increasing his projectile speed or attack speed could help him stay competitive rather than being a free kill for the currently way overtuned Sombra. In general, I do very much enjoy the new direction that Blizzard is taking this game in. People are going to call it chaotic and compare it to deathmatch type games like Call of Duty, but I don't entirely agree with that assessment. I mean, sure, it's more so going in that direction than it was before, but the dynamic of supports mostly synergizing with their tanks has now shifted to synergizing with their DPS instead. I do think this playstyle makes the game less accessible to the masses. Players who are not very mechanically skilled and have no intention to improve that aspect of the gameplay will definitely struggle, but it makes the game feel more fair and more consistently fun for those who are here for it. Very often when I get eliminated, I can see that I made a mistake which led to that. Previously, there were so many cheesy abilities and compositions in the game that I would just spend the majority of my time being frustrated whenever I do get eliminated. The fact that I can lose track of time while playing Overwatch 2, and the fact that I have this desire to get better at it, really speaks volumes for how good the experience has been. Even though it is a steep learning curve for me as a support that feels a lot more punishing than for other roles. If you're wondering why support heroes have not gotten a lot of changes, that's because our heroes have already been insanely powerful in Overwatch 1. We've gotten complacent relying on that power, and now that we're no longer at the top, we have to play catch up with DPS and tank players who had to try their hardest this entire time. But what do you think? Have you secured yourself beta access during the Twitch Drops event and finally got your hands on the game? Let me know down in the comment section below. But until then, thank you everybody so much for watching. Don't forget to drop me a like on your way out if you enjoyed this video, subscribe if you want to see more, and definitely ring that bell icon to not miss out on my next upload. I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and until next time, peace!